Welcome to PrepAquatics.com. I'm Skylar King. As always, you can email me, Skylar@PrepAquatics.com. You can follow me on Twitter @SkylarPrep. And welcome back to Prep Aquatics for the 2018 girls swim season. And it should be a fun one because we really have, for the first time in a while, a legitimate race for a couple trophies. And, it still looks like this is a foregone conclusion that this is going to be a Rosary four-peat. I don't think anybody that's studied it to any extent would argue with that. Some of these other top teams would have to pick up not just a impact freshman, but multiple impact freshmen, and then have Rosary not pick up any impact freshmen. There's some names of freshmen that I know some schools are getting, but as always, when you see the predictions come out, they're not going to include any freshmen because I just don't know everybody, and so it's unfair for me to judge anybody adding somebody and not somewhere else. So for those of you that have these star freshmen coming in, and there are a few going to trophy contender teams, you can sort of pencil them in to what I have and figure out where that may land you. And then when the midseason predictions come out, there the freshmen will be. I think that the two front runners for these trophies are LT and Nequa. And I have it in that order, although I have it close. Sort of right off the bat, I have Lyons Township winning the medley relay. LT and Nequa both return all 12 relay members from their 3 scoring relays last year. And, that's huge to know that you've got proven people, and then now it's just a matter of, did anybody improve enough to steal one of those spots? And if they did, then you're really in business. I also think that this is Rosary's most questionable relay because they lost their back half. Now, I think they can put certainly Catherine Mueller in the fly. That's a pretty seamless transition. One top six flyer for another, but they still have an issue with the anchor because they're either going to have to settle for someone that's not as good as Emily Ryan's been over the last 4 years, or they're going to have to move somebody else out of something. Or they're going to have to get creative, which I think they're more than capable of doing because they've got about 56 backstrokers on their team, or at least it seems that way. And, they can make some things happen with that as well. And potentially, even though it might be where she's the most valuable, either moving Athena Yee to the butterfly or the freestyle leg out from the backstroke leg, and to potentially free up Catherine Mueller to stay in both free relays with 2 individual events. So the other 2 trophy contenders I see are New Trier and St. Charles North. New Trier obviously basically has a first or second place relay just with diving. Their issue, along with St. Charles North's issue, is really where are the other individual points going to come from. St. Charles North lost some big time points with Audrey Guyette, and because they lost her, Megan Armstrong, who's their second most proven returning swimmer after Mallory Jump, likely is going to have to go and swim the backstroke leg of the medley and come out of the 200 free. And it's not as much the couple points she got from her bottom 6 swim last year as much as could she have parlayed that into a top 6 swim this year. And these are the issues facing all the teams really that aren't the top 3. And I even think that there's definitely some question about where all the individual points will come from for Nequa and LT. But because they have those relays locked in with all 12 returners, they they have more time to think about that, whereas the other teams are maybe creating less opportunities individually because they need to fill in relay spots. You know, the real question is like, for New Trier, like Casey Venn, I would probably pull it out of the IM. You know, the IM is loaded. As you'll see here, I don't think anybody should swim the IM, to be honest, unless you really have to, because it's super tough. And, you know, the couple points that she could potentially pick up if lightning strikes, I don't think it's worth it. Put her in the breaststroke where she's proven, put her in 3 relays, and go from there. Because you need to maximize those relays as opposed to worrying about a handful of points you might pick up individually. We'll start sort of going through the event by event here real quick. Like I said, I got LT winning the medley. I think it'll be really close with Nikwa, and depending on what Rosary, I've got them third, figures out, they could definitely be in the mix. Then I've got New Trier, St. Charles North, and as we go east, this is kind of a hunch. I just think based on what they have returning, that it makes the most sense for them to pull Cooper out of a free relay and put her in on the medley. And I think they've got an excellent chance to get top 6, obviously. We're only going to get top 6 in 2 relays. They probably won't even score a 3rd relay. It's just too hard to replace what White and Kraus brought on those relays if Cooper is not on there also. If Oswego really thought they were a trophy contender, which I don't think they can realistically consider, they could put Cooper in 3 relays. But again, even more than these other teams we talked about, where's Oswego's individual points going to come from if not from Cooper? And Cooper's got an excellent chance to get 32 points, which is as good as a relay win. So the 200 free, I think, is really interesting. I've got Callahan Dunn winning the 200 free. This goes back to what I was saying about the IM. But I think this could go any of 3 ways. I could see Dunn, Kate Morris, or Ann Taverny winning the 200 free. I've got them in that order. You know, that was just kind of me playing a hunch. The rest of my top 6 is Macy Rink from Bloomington, Jessica Davis, and Callie Frankowiak from Plainfield North. I'm just guessing that they'll figure it out this year and not taper for sectionals now that they've seen how well they can do. But if Davis and Frankowiak both taper for sectionals, all bets are off. You're bringing in all sorts of possibilities, led, I think, by Casey Craffey from Vernon Hills, if she doesn't also taper for sectionals. Annika Wagner should set the state record in the IM. And it's hard for me to say that because, frankly, Rogic should have set the state record again in the IM last year and didn't. But Wagner's went 158 after girls state last year. She is so much better than everybody else that's returning. This is another reason why, like for Dunn, even if she doesn't win the 200, I don't think anybody's got a chance to beat Wagner in the IM. And the potential for those extra couple points, you know, even say she's third, she could have caught a third in the IM also, and she's no worse for wear. I've got Van Overmyron, Jump, Parkinson, Pytel, and Julia Heimstead is the rest of my top 6. I'm just betting on Izzy Pytel sort of regaining and developing from what she was as an 8th grader. Her struggles as a freshman didn't really make any sense to me, and I could very well be wrong, but she's a talent. She was obviously talented enough that Coach Shawls made sure she was on the medley at state, and she performed well doing that. And so she's got state experience as a freshman, just not individually, but she's a big time talent, and I think she'll start showing that this year. Heimstead's another one. It'll be really interesting to see what happens with her coming off the Grace Areola show last year. The only reason I think she's even going to swim high school is because she always has. She didn't come in this past year just because Areola came out for the team. And so, and I think she's got an excellent chance to win the fly. And I wouldn't think she'd want to pass that up. But again, it's a weird situation with the Bloomington Waves Club and their girls not swimming high school. 50 free. Naturally, I have Cooper winning it. She was the fastest girl in the state last year. She just didn't do it on Saturday. Cooper should, I think, take the 50 and the 100 this year. The rest of my top six: Athena Yee, Natalie Ungaretti, McKenna Stone, Elizabeth Sowers, Reed Broders. The spring free in general was, there's more good sprint freestylers from this past freshman class than from like all the other classes combined just about. And how good the sprint free events are at state this year is really going to depend heavily on the girls that are now sophomores in high school. Because outside of Cooper, Yee, and Ungaretti, there's a massive drop-off amongst the upperclassmen, in the 50 free in particular in this case. And so it should be fun to see these girls really take a step forward. Obviously, there's a lot of talented ones out there. I talked about Morris in the 200. We got Stone in the 50 and the 100. And these girls from this last freshman class really are going to decide overall how impressive this state meet is. Because last year's senior class, frankly, let us down at the state meet in terms of the top end speed. And a lot of that could be helped by the current sophomore class. Diving, the new Trier girls going 1-2, I don't think that's very controversial considering they won 1-2 last year. It's more important, more than anything, for the team race and how that could potentially play out. New Trier really needs those divers to go 1-2, in my opinion, to make a serious run at a trophy. In the fly, this is another one where up top I think is going to be really tight. I mentioned Heimstead earlier. I've actually got Mallory Jump winning it because Heimstead doesn't tend to put her best foot forward at the state meet. She tends to do her best work in club. I've got Athena Yee, third place in the fly. And it's really because of what Linda Licari did this offseason in the backstroke. In terms of, not that Rosary needs the extra points to make sure they win state, at least in my opinion, but why not? I mean, Yee is a really good butterflyer, and I don't know that she's going to swim a ton of butterfly in college, but in terms of the state meet, she's definitely a top 6 butterflyer. I've got Gruvberger from Hinsdale, Mueller from Rosary, and Lindsay Merck from Lockport rounding out the top 6. But I could see, under the right circumstances, just about any of those girls winning the state title in the butterfly. It's probably the deepest 1 through 6 that we have in terms of there not being a ton of separation, unless Heimstead really shows up. Heimstead posted a 53 in the fly since high school, which is really impressive. There's only been a handful of girls that have broken 54 in state history, and so I mean, if she shows up with that, even a little improvement, and we could potentially see a state record in the butterfly. In the 100, I've got Cooper, but again, this is more of this sophomore class flexing their muscle. I've got Morris second, I've got Stone fourth with Ungaretti in between and third, and then Macy Rink and Joelle Orr fifth and sixth. Again, these young girls are going to really decide how tough this state meet is. Cooper won the 100 last year. Her closest competition was her teammate who graduated. I don't see anyone beating her this year. But if somebody was going to get her in either, I would expect it to be one of these sophomores, because they've got the most room to grow. And so, I mean, hopefully it is interesting. I mean, unless Cooper's going to break a couple state records, which she could, it's just not that fun to watch a blowout unless you're watching, history in the making. The 500 free, I've got Ann Taverny winning it. I just think Taverny wasn't totally in on being a distance girl last year. If she is, I think she's got the prettiest stroke of the group, and it's the highest ceiling in the 500 free of any of the girls in the field. I think it's going to come down to her and Dunn. I do not like the depth after those two. I'll be shocked, frankly, if anybody beats those two other than each other. The rest of my top 6 is Madison Schimmel from Ignatius, Rachel Steggy from Nequa, Bridget O'Leary Barrington, Jane Smith Palatine. But I think those two, I think this is a match race between those two for the state championship. And like Dunn picking her to move to the 200, I think it's really going to work out, even though I don't think she was in love with it at the time, for Taverny moving to the 500 free last year and realizing that it can really be a great event for her. Free relays, I've got Rosary winning both of these. I just think they've got the most top-end sprinters even still. Losing Emily Ryan's big, but they've got Jessica Jerriane running around, who I mentioned Pytel earlier, was really, I thought, their best freshman during the high school season last year in terms of just her overall performance. She could be another one. They could potentially fill in the backstroke on the medley. And so I think Rosary's free relays are going to be just fine. Nequa, St. Charles North, LT, all 3 of them all back from last year in this relay. And so it should be, this is probably going to be the most hotly contested relay for the state title. Not just in terms of how close it'll be, but also in terms of how fast the times will be. I think this is probably going to be the best, fastest relay out of the 3 at the state meet this year. Then I've got Mattia and Glenbard West, 5th and 6th. Again, when you got Morris and Stone, that's a pretty good start. And this is the relay I have Oswego going. We'll have to see. They could totally go for the 400. I think with the loss of Kraus and White, they're going to struggle to make top 6 in either free relay. Just replacing them with whoever they got on the roster. They pick up a stud sprinting freshman, then we can talk about them crashing the top 6 party. I've also got New Trier 7th. This is a relay that they didn't get top 6 in last year, and they lost half their relay. So this relay is probably going to be the benchmark for, is New Trier going to win a trophy, or are they going to fall just short of a trophy? If they get top 6 in the short relay, then I think they're probably in trophy business. The backstroke's another one that I think is wide open. I've got Catherine Mueller winning the backstroke, followed by Ashley Carollo, Grace Prendergast, Linda Licari. I mentioned Yee's moved to the fly. Linda Licari posted some great swims in the backstroke this offseason, and good enough that it warrants a spot in the top 6 here in the preseason. Megan Armstrong and Lindsay Merck, I've got 5th and 6th. It's going to be very interesting. Rosary is always the most interesting team to follow when it comes to their lineup, because they not only have the most talent, but they've got the most versatility with their girls that have the big talent. A lot of other schools have talent, but it's, they're pigeonholed into 1, maybe 2 events. There's a lot of versatility here amongst several different girls, and again, this is just, I put their lineup together like this because I think it'll score the most points. But like I said, I don't know that they're going to need to maximize their points to win. They shouldn't have to, frankly. That'll change after this year, but right now I think this has got the most upside of any of their lineups, is having Licari go the backstroke and Yee go the fly. and then we'll see what happens at that point. Lakari's never made the top 6, and I think the backstroke this year is her best chance. Breaststroke, again, I think Wagner's got a shot at the state record, and I don't see anybody beating her. The rest of my top 6, Maxine Parkinson, Casey Venn, Sydney Van Overmyeren, Izzy Pytel, Allie Penrod. Again, Pytel's kind of my biggest leap of faith swimmer coming into the season. We'll see how she performs throughout the year, and maybe I'll change my tune. But I expected her to be a scoring swimmer as a freshman, and she wasn't. And we'll see if she can bounce back. And then the final relay, no surprise, Rosary, Nequa, LT. Again, Nequa and LT, all 3 relays, all 4 girls back. And then I've got St. Charles North, New Trier, Mattia Valley in the top 6. Team standings, Rosary 232, Nequa 128, LT 122, New Trier 110, St. Charles North 104. So that's 4 teams within 24 points before the season starts for 2 trophies. And I think that's about as good as a race as you're going to get most years. The rest of my top 10, Mattia Valley 6th, 75, Oswego 7th, 69, Glenbard West 8th, 48, Barrington 9th, 44, and then I've got Naperville Central and Vernon Hills tied at 10th with 41 points. So again, I think we got 5 trophy contenders, which again, I don't recall too many years where we even had that many. Usually 4 is about the most you can hope for. But for any of you out there that are coming into this season hoping that Rosary might get knocked off, I think you're going to be sadly disappointed. And for those of you that perused the recruiting rankings when they came out, you know why. I've got Rosary having 4 of the 5 best seniors in the state and 5 of the top 12. And even though with girls, the younger kids are more likely to make an impact than the boys because of physical development, it still helps more than any other class to have studs in the senior class. And that's what Rosary has, and that's why they're in line for their 2nd 4-peat in program history. Unfortunately, because I've got a new job and I've got a crazy work schedule this week because one of the other managers is on vacation, I will not be making it out to a meet here in week 1. I'm hoping to hopefully get in the rotation of doing these shows on Mondays, and I'll be telling you where I'm gonna make my first appearance of the fall at a meet next week sometime. As always, you can email me, SkylarPrepAquatics.com. You can follow me on Twitter @SkylarPrep, and we'll be back next week looking back on the first week of action here at PrepAquatics.com.